only a few events per year televised on a live flag-to-flag basis. We take a great deal of pride in the fact we help show America what short track racing, super speedway racing, and road racing in Winston Cup is all about. In the early 80s, there were several drivers who could lay claim to being the masters of the super speedways. We saw Cale Yarborough win on numerous occasions, as well as Neil Bonnet, who was the winner in our first live telecast from Atlanta in 1981.
Waltrip did it a lap ago. He's got one more shot. They left by John Anderson. A blur at the bottom of your screen at 160 miles an hour. Here comes Yarborough. Yarborough, bottom of the racetrack. He's got Waltrip, and that will let Bonnet slip away. It'll be Bonnet out of turn 4 all the way to the checkered flag. Waltrip is second by inches.
The super speedways at Pocono and Michigan have shown us their own unique brand of competition throughout the years. The Pocono International Raceway has the longest straightaway in the Winston Cup Series. We've seen cars going 4 and 5 wide many times. With its 3 unique corners, it's been a challenge for NASCAR's best drivers. Cale Yarborough was the winner the first time we visited Pocono in June of 1984. Harry Gant came back 6 weeks later to stage a classic battle with Yarborough and Bill Elliott. It's still Harry Gant showing the way.
Yarborough moves in a little bit. The deficit goes down to 2 car lengths, about 3 car lengths. Gant gets a good bite down on the bottom of turn number 3. I think it's going to be Gant.
They come out of turn number 3. The crowd rises to its feet. They cheer for the winner of the Light Cola 500, Harry Gant. And Cale Yarborough finishes second by about a half a car length over Bill Elliott. We visited the Michigan International Speedway for the past 10 years to bring you the Champion Spark Plug 400. Our first visit was a classic battle between 2 of the biggest stars in the sport's history.
And the photo finish camera is ready again at Michigan International Speedway to capture the close of this race. Richard Petty and Bobby Allison are now nose to tail on the racetrack. Richard Petty looking for a way around, moves to the high side of the racetrack. Now the cars sweep off of turn number 2. They enter the backstretch for the final time at Michigan International on the Champion Spark Plug 400. Bobby Allison moves to the inside and Richard Petty to the outside. I thought that Allison was slowing, but he was only getting out of the draft. It's Bobby Allison and Richard Petty fighting side by side and nose to tail through turns 3 and 4. Petty lagging back just a little bit. Let's watch the move that Richard Petty makes off the trial, into the trial off the 4th turn. His car wiggles a little bit. It's going to be Bobby Allison winning the Champion Spark Plug 400. But it's almost a side-by-side finish with Richard Petty. Another great finish in Grand National Winston Cup racing.
No one has won more on the super speedways in the past 10 years than Bill Elliott. We've seen him win at Darlington, Michigan, Pocono, and others. As a matter of fact, Bill Elliott has won on every super speedway we've covered in Winston Cup racing, including his win at Daytona in July of '91. Bill Elliott has won only once in his career on the short tracks, and once again we were there for that remarkable finish.
Oh, and Elliott is spinning. Jeff Bodine gave Bill a nudge. They're still side by side coming off the corner. Bodine is sideways. Elliott has it.
When it comes to short track racing, 3 drivers have dominated our coverage in the past 10 years. When we broadcast our first race, Dale Earnhardt was the defending Winston Cup champion. But Dale's luck wasn't good that day. In the future, he would dominate our broadcast. With 22 wins overall on ESPN, Earnhardt has won more ESPN televised races than anyone. A master of the short tracks, Earnhardt racked up wins consistently at Bristol, Martinsville, and North Wilkesboro. Bobby Allison was always a threat on any track, but especially where driving skill and experience are measured. With 6 wins on ESPN, Bobby dominated much of our early years on the air. We broadcast more races from North Wilkesboro than any other track. When you think of that speedway, you have to think of Junior Johnson, who lives just a few miles from the track. Darrell Waltrip was driving for Johnson in our early years and seemed to be unbeatable at North Wilkesboro.
We just had a lot of laps at that racetrack under all kinds of incredible conditions. We build a new car, we take it there and run it. We take a road course car there and run it. Everything we had, we take there and run. It was a test facility.
Darrell has won on every short track we visited and has won more short track races on ESPN than anyone. Covering the road courses has given us the opportunity to visit two of the newest additions to the Winston Cup schedule, as well as bid a farewell to a California landmark. In 1988, the Winston Cup Tour made its final stop at Riverside International Raceway. California Land Development had overrun the facility, but not without a struggle from Southern California fans. Rusty Wallace was now emerging as a road racer, capturing the final run through the California desert. In 1989, the Tour moved to Northern California to visit Sears Point International Raceway for the first time. Wallace and Ricky Rudd gave the fans a taste of how competitive the Winston Cup Series can be.
Here is one of the racetrack's biggest passing areas. He moves to the outside of Rudd. They're side by side through the corner. And now Rudd and Wallace bump, and Rudd runs him off the racetrack, but it really doesn't slow Rusty very much. He only drops back a couple of car lengths.
For the past 6 years, Watkins Glen has been one of our favorite stops. Tim Richmond was the winner for NASCAR's first visit to the New York track in over 20 years. Richmond's slashing style was a sight to behold. Over the next 4 years, Wallace and Rudd traded wins as well as some sheet metal.
Here they come up the seventh corner. Who's going to win it? They're side by side. Rusty is well off the track. He cannot win it, and Ricky Rudd does. Unbelievable.
Short track, super speedways, and road courses. You've got to do well on all three types of circuits if you want to be a Winston Cup champion. 5 times we've seen the Cup clinched on ESPN. Benny Parsons will have that story when we return.
With the drop of the green flag, Dale Earnhardt clinched the Winston Cup Championship at Atlanta Motor Speedway for his 5th title in 12 seasons.
Championship for Dale Earnhardt. It's official.
When I won the Winston Cup Championship in 1973, there was no live television coverage of the event. But in the past few seasons, we've had a great opportunity to watch the championships clinch live on ESPN. When I recently spoke with Brett Bodine, he recognized how far the sport has come in the past 10 years.
I think, Benny, one of the things that, as a younger driver, I don't understand the fact that this sport that I enjoy and am part of wasn't covered back when you were a younger driver, when some of the more veteran drivers were younger. And I don't understand their feelings of exactly what it means for this to be covered on ESPN and all the other networks that cover all the races. It means so much.
The first time we saw the championship on ESPN was in '86 at Atlanta. Darrell Waltrip, second in points, placed 39th with a blown engine.
And now, Dale Earnhardt at Atlanta, Georgia on a Sunday afternoon in November wins the Atlanta Journal 500 and wins the Winston Cup for the second time in his career. Dale Earnhardt is champion.
In 1988, the championship went down to the final race at Atlanta, with Bill Elliott holding the points lead over Rusty Wallace. Wallace did all he could. He won the pole, led most laps, and won the race. But Elliott's 11th place finish gave him a 24-point victory for his first Winston Cup title. The 1989 championship battle once again came down to the final race, with Rusty Wallace holding the edge over Mark Martin and Dale Earnhardt. Martin's hopes went up in flames early with a blown engine. Earnhardt charged from the pole to win the race, but he fell 12 points short of the championship, with Rusty struggling all day to a 15th place finish.
Here comes the checkered flag. There's the end of the race. Dale Earnhardt wins the Atlanta Journal 500. But Rusty Wallace has become the 1989 Winston Cup champion.
Dale Earnhardt had grabbed the points lead for the 1990 championship with only 1 race to go, leading Mark Martin by only 6 points. At Atlanta, Earnhardt ran a strong, consistent race to finish 3rd, while Martin scrambled to finish 6th. Martin fell only 26 points short in his quest for the Cup. In December of 1990, ESPN had an opportunity for the first time to cover the Winston Cup Awards banquet live and let America watch Dale Earnhardt accept his rewards as a 4-time Winston Cup champion. Winning the Winston Cup championship means a $1 million payday for the champion. But its real worth can't be measured. It's a prize every driver covets. Every crewman works night and day for, what every car owner seeks. And it's been our pleasure to watch the drama unfold through the years.
Is there anywhere we haven't put a camera? We'll have some highlights of ESPN's technical innovations when we return with ESPN